Hello folks, Ram Ram ji. Let me point out from the very beginning, I don't belong to any political party. The views are my own and they are based on my observations of what has been happening. What has been happening as I've seen them for over 70 odd years. So please don't connect me with any political party. Nobody is paying me anything for this. There's no sponsorship, nothing. We've had some pretty shocking news. This arrest warrant for Mr. Gautam Adani in the US, New York County, where the same sort of court or the same area where Trump was indicted for 30 or 35 particular criminal acts, all of which proved to be fake. I think they finally convicted him on one, but that's it. Now first, does the US court have any jurisdiction on anything that has happened here in India? They say all this so-called bribery took place in India. Indian officials were involved. There's one foreign person who was involved. So what? If the foreigner comes to India and he does something silly, it's still Indian law courts that can prosecute him. American law courts have no jurisdiction here. In any case, if he goes back to the US will not send him back here or extradite him here. Or they take years to do so, even though they know the guy is guilty. So, on what basis do they have any right to indict and issue an arrest warrant to Mr. Adani? One. Two. Why at this particular point in time? Because there are a couple of elections. Second, a parliament session is due to begin, a very important one. Now try and understand this, an important parliament session. Why? The amendments to the Waqf Act 1995, a very important point. So obviously, a rumpus like this is created. Now the opposition parties can go into parliament and create another racket, hoping that this particular bill won't even be tabled, let alone discussed. Why? They're too busy with all these shenanigans. I mean, this is standard practice for this particular bunch of opposition people. It happened last year, it happened the year before, and as far as we know, that's all they do. They appear to be like a bunch of rabble, nothing else. They have no idea what needs to be done, even less desire to do anything. But their main aim is to make sure that nobody else can do anything. You see, I've been around since independence. I was around before independence. And I've noticed, how much did the Congress do in 67 years? Almost nothing. They just held us back. This is what License Raj was all about. And what has the BJP government done in just 10 years? 5 or 10 times more than the Congress took 67 years to do. I mean, where Congress was concerned, there was no connectivity, there were no roads, road transport was slow. Obviously, there was no internet, even when it was available. They made no attempt to get it to the general public. There was no development. Everything had to be bought in from outside. Why? Then the penny dropped. All they were after was commissions. You see, anything that's bought in from outside, they take their commissions. The commission could be 500%. They'd buy something for $1 and sell it to the government of India for $15 or $20. That was their game. And of course, this government comes in and says any such purchases will be government to government. No middlemen. Now that knocks hell out of their finances. And they have been looting this country every which way to sunset. The money is sent abroad, invested there for the benefit of Europe and the US. It doesn't come here, or if it does come here, the interest payments or the dividends are so huge, anybody would come here. But it doesn't help our people. So why is our money being used to develop already developed countries instead of us? Now Rahul Gandhi, for instance, says he doesn't even have a house here. Why? Is it because he's not an Indian national? Or he's not a citizen of India? And if he's not a citizen of India, what is he doing in Parliament? That too, leader of the opposition. What is he doing in Parliament? You see, this is something I've never been able to figure out. I've also said that this particular family, starting with Nehru, has done everything possible to turn India into an Islamic country. All the laws they've made, it beggars belief. For instance, in 1954, the Waqf Board was recognized by whom? Nehru. Why? No Islamic country has something like a Waqf Board or its equivalent. It doesn't. So why do we have one in India? Graves and gravestones and graveyards are prohibited under Islam. Go to Saudi Arabia. How many permanent graves will you find? None. Apart from the Kaaba itself, there is nothing. Because in Islam it is haram. Nothing should be above soil level, and nothing should be permanent. So why do we have graveyards here? And let's go a little further. The Waqf Board has been given more and more sweeping powers as time went on. And of course, the Waqf Act 1995 gave them such powers that I don't think anybody anywhere has this sort of power. Where you can literally, you just put your finger on something and say, this is ours. It becomes theirs. No paperwork, no ownership records, nothing. And yet it's their property. Your property, my property, anybody's property, they just say this is a Waqf property. That's it. They don't have to prove anything. You have to prove it. And only if they say, okay, you proved it. If they say, no, it isn't, it's still their property. Now, what kind of madness is this? It's another way of taking over the entire country. All the land then suddenly belongs to the Waqf Board. So either you become a Muslim, you adopt, or you, how shall I put it, convert to Islam, pay huge rents or jizya tax or what have you, or get out of here, or you get killed. This, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, is what you want for us? Because this is what you're doing. And it is your UPA government from 2004 to 2014 which tried to bring in so many draconian laws to ensure that Hindus remain downtrodden, even though Hindus are 80% of the population of this country at the time. Now, I just don't understand why. when Pakistan was created for Muslims, why are you converting the rest of us into Islam? How much more do you want? Why do you hate Hindus so much? Is it because Hinduism is local, therefore no good? But Islam and Christianity are foreign, therefore they're wonderful. You still won't let us get that stigma out of that, that little floppy out of our bird brains. That anything foreign is good. If it's British, it's even better. But if it's local, it's no good. Now, coming back to the Adanis, I warned in February 2023 that first salvo against Modi. You remember the BBC documentary on Godhra, then the first Hindenburg report and so on. Well, there was another, that didn't do much. Adani shares came back. You tried again, Hindenburg 2. That did nothing. But there's a particular firm in the US which close links with, I'm told, not only George Soros, but also with the Rothschilds. In 4 of Adani's companies, they have bought in something like somewhere between 2.5 and 4.5% shares of those 4 companies. Adani Green is one of them. Adani Enterprises, the flagship company, is another one. Which means somebody is out to try and get a firm stranglehold on Adani group companies. Why? Why not Ambani's? Well, the reason is quite simple. Adani's have invested and gone into a core industries in a very big way. You get a control over Adani companies, you can control the whole of this country. Why? They're going to ports. They've gone into airports. Power generation. Green power, which includes solar power. Power distribution. Mining, including coal mining and so on. They're into all these core industries, which means anybody who has a control over these companies can control India or cripple India. That's why they tried last year to get a stranglehold on the State Bank of India and the LIC, but they failed. Now they're trying to get hold of Adani's. And this company, I think GQG, US-based company, last year they bought something like 13,500 crores worth of shares, which, after they purchased, within a matter of 4 or 5 days, they could have made a profit of 5,000 crores. It is not a small amount in 5 days. Now you understand the stakes they're fooling around with. Why? What does it do for Mr. Rahul Gandhi to keep trying to bash Adani's? He's not going to get anything from there, or at least we hope he's not. If he does, then we know he's behind all these shenanigans. And he should be behind bars on the same allegations that have been placed against Adani. Now, we come to something else. The moment this came out, Rahul Gandhi demands the arrest of Mr. Gautam Adani. Is he really that stupid? I'm talking about Mr. Rahul Gandhi. Because in so demanding, he has signed his own arrest warrant. Have we forgotten that he is already under a 2-year sentence, a prison term? Why is he not serving that instead of running around like this? Under the same allegations, he should be behind bars along with Mrs. Sonia Gandhi, that's his mother. Have you forgotten the National Herald scam? Now, if allegations are enough to put a person behind bars, as he claims, he's one of the first ones who should be inside. Because not only has he been convicted, he's also into another huge scam, which is even bigger than what Adani is accused of. So why have we forgotten all this? Well, he seems to have forgotten, and he hopes we've forgotten. I mean, what kind of an idiot is this? What kind of lunacy is this? Does he have so little in the way of common sense? Now then, the other fallout of all this. The moment you attack a very big group like Adani's, stock markets crash. Why does he want the stock market to crash? Because the people who suffer are you and I, the small investors. Our life savings are in those stocks. And if that crashes, we get killed off. How does that help Rahul Gandhi or anybody else? It doesn't. Except those guys sitting outside who want it to happen. Why? To bring Prime Minister Modi down. Because it spoils his record and his reputation. They don't want anything else, they just want to bring him down. Now you see what the Biden administration is doing. They've lost the election and Trump is going to be he is the president-elect. That particular Biden government is doing everything possible to make a real mess of everything. Whatever relations they have with India, they're destroying it. They're helping the Canadians and the Canadians are helping them to again mess up India. You remember the evidence for this Adani onslaught this time is provided by the Canadian Pension Fund. And a pension fund means Government of Canada is involved in this. Now the Globe and Mail in Canada recently came out with this, that Prime Minister Modi knew about the assassination or murder of the Sikh in Canada, Mr. Nijjar, which is utter nonsense, which is the same as saying that Mr. Modi is a murderer. I notice nobody has said that about the American presidents. I'm talking about since 1953. The literal kangaroo court murder of Mossadegh in Iran. What about Patrice Lumumba, the Prime Minister or President of the newly independent Congo Republic? Not only was he murdered, but his body was never found. It is said he was dissolved in acid. They just kept a little bit of him for DNA purposes. How horrendous can you get? What about the plane crash in with the UN Secretary General? I think his name was Dag Hammarskjöld. He died. The CIA admitted that they were responsible for it years later. What about the president of South Vietnam? The moment he wanted to do something for the Vietnamese, he was assassinated. And everybody knows who did it. What about Salvatore Allende, the elected president of Chile? He was assassinated. Why? And it is said, and well, not more than just said, that Henry Kissinger was responsible for that. What about Saddam Hussein? George Bush? President Gaddafi? He was murdered. Who was in charge then? Barack Obama and NATO. Why? Because he was doing a very good job looking after Libya. You didn't like that. Libya was beginning to do better than most of Western Europe. Now you have a look at what's happening to Ukraine. Nothing finished. Nothing happens there anymore. It's destroyed. It's in ruins. And he hoped to go back and rebuild the place and make the Ukrainians pay for it? Or is it by using Russian dollars in European banks, which they've confiscated? Why? I can tell you something. You bring those guys in front of me, I'll have every US president since Truman indicted. America would have to pay every penny in terms of compensation for all the wars they've created and all the weapons they supplied all over the world. So why are they doing it? It's the same as the Waqf board here. They know that there is a bill coming up which they don't want amended. But the government is going to do it, like it or not, because it's necessary. Biden is trying to destroy everything so that Trump will have a very hard time doing anything at all. In the same way as the Waqf board does not want this bill to be passed, these amendments. So, before that thing comes up in Parliament, they're making huge claims all over the place. Kerala, 30,000 acres. Now another 15,000 acres have been claimed. Karnataka, 15,000 acres. God knows what else they've claimed all over the place. In fact, in Maharashtra, they have actually claimed the land on which the Siddhi Vinayak temple stands. How? That's a 200-year-old temple. How could it be on land which belonged to the Waqf board, which only came into being in 1954? And the Waqf board is something which doesn't exist in any other country. So how does it exist here? Why? And by the way, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, you keep telling us your family has made so many sacrifices, so suffered so much hardships and so on, starting with Nehru. Well, somebody sent me a clip. Nehru was interviewed by, I think, somebody from England, a BBC interviewer. And Nehru said he had absolutely nothing to do with the independence movement. He did nothing in it. He admitted that. And he claimed that Nehru was imprisoned. Was he? Well, if you call the Aga Khan Palace in Pune a prison, be my guest. Where he had servants, he had secretaries, ate what he wanted, whatever food he wanted was served and so on. I don't call that a prison, it's more like a 5-star holiday. But be that as it may. Well, why at this particular time, and why is Rahul Gandhi so keen to get into the act? Because he has nothing else. He wants to start up a process whereby all hell will break loose once Parliament begins, so that no business can be transacted. That seems to be their standard modus operandi. And another thing, one thing I cannot understand, is the BJP that stupid? That ignorant? Why do they go with these silly slogans? They had something handed to them on a silver platter. All these claims made by the Waqf board all over the country, so close to Maharashtra, and they never use that in the election or during the hustings. Why? They walked over the opposition. Had they just pointed out that, look, if you vote for the opposition, you will lose your land, all of it, because the Waqf board will claim it and you can't do anything about it. This is a fact, a cold, hard fact of life. You better believe it. Anyway, folks, think about what I've said. A, the Adani thing is another hoax to try and crash the stock market and to bring down prices so that they can buy it cheap. The other rumpus they're trying to create is to ensure no business is transacted in Parliament. Why? The Waqf Board Amendment Bill is due to come up, which they don't want done, for obvious reasons. You see, that sword, Damocles' sword must be hanging over us. And they would claim they're the only people who can stop it happening. Of course, they won't tell you that they're the ones who caused it in the first place. Because it was the Congress in 1995 which passed that bill. Politics has been reduced to such a low level by those characters. And I'm talking about the opposition. There is no decency in it anymore. It's always appeasement or handing the country over to Muslims. As if Christians and especially Hindus, the vast majority, have no place here. Think about it. And think hard and think carefully. Because if you let them continue with this way, not just the Congress, but the SP and the TMC and so on, I shudder to think what will happen to this country of ours in the next 15, 20 years. Anyway, think about it. Think carefully. Send this one to all your friends and relatives. Hopefully they will start thinking too. And ask them to pass it on to others. Because these are things you must think about very carefully. Well, ciao. Ram Ram.